Yard Sports Studio. Here's Steve Kaplowitz and Adrian Broadus.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Happy Friday, TGIF, everyone. We're in August now, second day of August. In fact, 4 weeks from tomorrow, UTEP and Nebraska. Can you believe it? UTEP and Nebraska, 4 weeks from tomorrow, right around the corner. Good to see Michael Plundo just showed up, so it's nice. He had to deal with traffic. Traffic sucks sometimes. I'm not surprised. I dealt with it yesterday heading east. I know what it's like around here, so yes, I get that completely, which is why if you're stuck in traffic, hey, you can listen to us and hear Charlie One. He'll give you all the updates and maybe places to avoid and, detours to make it easier for you. So, yes, that's coming up a little bit later when Charlie joins us at 1:15, plus in about 15 in front of the hour. So he joins us twice an hour, and we will actually have, I think, a total of, is it 4 or 5 updates from Charlie One? Are we going to get a 6 o'clock from Charlie or probably not?
No, it's Friday, so we'll probably get 4 today. Steve, 5:40 will be his last one.
Okay, that sounds like fun. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to the show. We got a lot to cover on the show today. Tim and story time in our 6 o'clock hour. I'm excited about that. I'll have another great story for us from the ballpark. Where, by the way, Kate Flannery was terrific last night. She stayed well into the 6th or 7th inning, signing autographs, taking photos. She had a blast. She posted on her Instagram today, and lots of photos, lots of pictures from her trip to El Paso. And that was great. She was just a lot of fun to meet and a lot of fun to talk to. And hopefully those of you that had the opportunity yesterday really enjoyed yourself. I saw fans bringing T-shirts. They had Kate Flannery shirts that they wore with them yesterday, and a lot of people just came ready for her because there's some huge Office fans out there.
Yeah, I love the photos of I think there were 2 fans who had customized T-shirts for Meredith. That was so neat. Shout out to George Salgado. He dusted off a little Dunder Mifflin shirt as well. He took a nice photo with Meredith from The Office herself. It was awesome. It looked like she really enjoyed herself in El Paso. The Instagram post was kind of that validation right there. And, man, it seemed like she was just willing to tell jokes, willing to talk Office, and willing to have fun with all the people in El Paso.
Totally agree. I think she had just a great time. She loved El Paso. She really did. Loved everything about her trip. And it was hot yesterday. It wasn't easy. She flew in from Philly, I think, and I don't know what it was like in Philadelphia. Probably a lot more humid, although it's been humid in El Paso these last couple of days. Once it rains, it's brutal. And then, the fireworks started when the Chihuahuas started destroying Walker Buehler, who I understand yelled 2 very, very loud F-bombs on the mound yesterday while pitching. So Buehler had a really tough time. Threw like 86 pitches in 3 1/3 innings. Not Walker Buehler type of pitching, and he's not the same right now. He's having a much tougher time coming back from Tommy John the second time around. And listen, we've talked about the surgery a million times. Not everybody is able to do it. Noah Syndergaard was never the same after Tommy John, and so many other great flamethrowers that have been so successful. And after that surgery, they're trying to work their way back. Look at how many years it took Chris Sale just to get back to his normal self after that Tommy John surgery. So, yeah, it's not easy. And Walker Buehler right now is dealing with what so many others have, and that's just trying to get his control back. The velocity's there. He's throwing 96. He just doesn't have the normal control that's made him so great.
Yeah, it's a bummer to see because when he's really dealing, it's really fun to watch him, Steve. The one thing I'll note, with Walker Buehler, I mean, the Dodgers don't need him right now.
No.
Obviously, they've been killing it without him. They've got a great rotation right now. But for Buehler himself, he was at the top, of the sport. And, he helped the Dodgers in their quest for a World Series title. So he's somebody right there who wants to get back to form and really try to help this team as they push for another World Series championship.
100% right. 100% right. So, yes, that's something we can talk about on the show today. If you were there last night and had a chance to watch the game. If you were not there, hopefully you were home watching the Hall of Fame game. And by the way, what is everybody talking about today after the Hall of Fame game? Not the weather delay that canceled the last part of the third quarter and the fourth quarter and ended the game prematurely. Everybody right now that I've heard on national sports talk radio talking about the new kickoff rule and talking about how different it is. And now there's a target zone. They're right out of the XFL. They've taken the XFL kickoff rules, and now the NFL has embraced it starting in 2024 with hopes to allow players to return the balls again. That's just what it comes down to. Too many downs, too many guys staying in the end zone and not running it out. The whole idea here is to let players run it out. And I'm fascinated with this. I think we only had a handful of plays yesterday during the game that involved kickoffs. But, Adrian, you've got the target zone of the like the goal line to the 20. And that is where kickers are trying to place that ball every time. And if not, there could be problems as a result for the kickoff team, because you might be kicking the ball off and suddenly having to start playing defense on the 40 if you either kick the ball too far or you don't kick it far enough. So you really have to be careful what you do with the football now on kickoffs, and it's making the kicker's job even that much more difficult because they got to kick from their own, I believe, 35-yard line and try to place that ball within a 20-yard window every time.
So what they're doing right now is to allow for more kickoffs, obviously, like what you're alluding to right there, Steve. The biggest thing that I noticed yesterday is of the 8 kickoffs, only 1 was a touchback. So I mean, for a guy like Kamani Fairbairn or, from the Texans, this was his, they called preseason games, but this is like the real chance to see how this is, how to game plan all of these things. I was seeing a lot of mixed reviews yesterday. One of the guys who was enshrined yesterday, Devin Hester, being a Hall of Famer, he was speaking out and saying, hey, well, if I'm a team out there, I would get a gadget player who could specialize in kickoff returns, because if you have somebody who could find open space, you can really take advantage of this new rule in a positive way for your team as a kick return team,
So you need 1 out of 53 that really specializes on how to kick a ball off correctly. Or are we talking about a kicker now you got to be a returner. I mean,
yeah,
I think the way I saw it is this. The kicking team lines up on their own 40-yard line, and then they're not allowed to start running until the ball has been caught. So they got to stay on that 40, and they can't go until the ball's been caught, and then they can get started. Or is it their 40, or is it it might be the opposing team's 40-yard line now that I think about it.
I'm not. Yeah, I think it's regardless of which side it's on.
You get the idea.
Yeah, it really benefits the team who's returning, Steve, who's returning the kicks, because they at least have some open space or some open room. Again, I would be curious to see new blocking schemes come up from this. New teams that have the gadget play. You just said it right there, though. You get one player out of your 53-man roster to do this. That might be asking a lot for maybe a little return. So let's see how teams attack this. Maybe they already have a specialized guy who's going to do something like this.
I mean, they've got a setup zone. They have all sorts of interesting things. And I believe it's actually the receiving teams. Okay, so the kicking team's players will line up on the receiving team's 40-yard line. That's how it works.
Makes sense.
And then they can start pursuing once the ball is caught, and then the ball will be caught between the goal line and the 20. So that means that the returner is probably going to have at least a 20-yard head start.
Yeah, it could bring chaos, man. I mean, it could flip games if you're really thinking about it. If a team's kicker isn't able to boom it over to making these kickoffs a touchback or something like that, and then it also incentivizes teams, hey, let's run back some of these, or let's really try to strategize so we can return these kicks back here in this case.
They have a landing zone. They have the setup zone. They've got all these interesting pieces of terminology. But, yeah, it's wild. I mean, the question's going to be, will the ball ever, first off, will players be able to return it for touchdowns? You might see more returns. And remember, the whole concept is also this. Since you start at the receiving team's 40-yard line when the ball's caught, the whole concept is not to have injuries and have crazy hits the way you normally do when guys have these massive running head starts and just go flying into the play.
Yeah, it's a crazy, switch. I'm very curious to see how this translates into the regular season when that time comes, and I'm curious to see how the coaches and they feel about it because Mike Tomlin. I was reading a press conference of him saying that how he's up for the new rule, and that's why he signed Cordero Patterson, one of the best kick returners, to help with that. But I'm curious just to see how this goes into the season and if this is going to be a rule that we're going to see permanently.
I'm interested too. You're right. I agree with you. Anyway, we got more coming up on the program as we get started. So we can talk about that. We could talk about all the other things going on football-wise with training camp. I heard Jerry Jones say he doesn't even want to talk about Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb's situations right now for his contracts. All he said was they're making progress. That's all he wants to talk about. Doesn't even want to say a word about it. He's tired of it. Even though, what do you expect? What do you think was going to happen when your two most high-profile players on offense and your most high-profile player on defense all need new contracts in the same year?
Weird week at Oxnard, California, Steve. Yep. I would say, so there was a story, I don't know if you saw this, it was like Tuesday or Wednesday. They showed the stands, and it looked absolutely empty. Like no one showed up for the first day of pads in training camp for the Cowboys. And then this was a story, like no one shows up, Jerry Jones, are they losing fans, or XYZ. The next day rolls around, there's like a long line to get in. Standing room only, the whole place is packed. The Cowboys get to do a victory lap, and the media from the Cowboys side of things says, people were questioning the lack of attendance. Now everybody showed up today. And now you get to continuously flip into the contract talk. So a lot of distractions. Are we talking any sort of football? I mean, all this is like off the field stuff mixed with all the Jerry Jones drama that's going on in the courts with his, alleged daughter right now.
But I heard that's already been dismissed and it's done. And that's
affecting this team right here.
Yeah, it's not helping.
It's all off the field issues that continue to pop up with this team.
I don't think Jerry's going to have to take a paternity test. I think the whole concept of that is they're throwing it out of court, and that's the end, and Jerry kind of walks away a winner.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I know that this is pretty much almost done, but still, it's a distraction. That no one's talking football right here, man. Like we're not talking a lot about how these players are going to mesh with each other. All we've been talking about is, hey, the Cowboys didn't add anything in the offseason. They're simply running it back from last year.
Although Dak did show up today for training camp, so the fact that he reported to camp and is working out, that's at least a good sign for Cowboys fans right now.
And then Jerry Jones will also point out DeMarion Overshone said that he's having the best training camp out there. So you're getting small nuggets here. This isn't a bad team, Steve. It's just a team that people have expectations to go to the Super Bowl, and because of what they lost in the offseason and what they didn't add, I don't know if that's a reality or if that's possible for this team.
No, you're good point. Very good point. So again, a lot of things we need to talk about here on the program today at 505-6009. We'd love to hear from you, 505-6009, as we continue on Sports Talk. Also, this morning I appeared on KLAQ in the Buzz Adams Morning Show, and I discussed Week 1, going to miss the whole preseason. Is that a terrible thing? I mean, how much football would he play anyway in the preseason?
Probably zero. It's just about getting the reps with the new wide receivers. I think that's the biggest thing that he's going to lose out on this offseason. He had the big question marks. I think even Michael wrote about it in his AFC ceilings and floor analysis up on our website right now. But he's got to develop that chemistry with some of these new receivers. Only Quentin Johnson returning from last year. Mm-hmm. Remember, it's no Mike Williams in the mix right now. No Keenan Allen. He's gone. He's with Chicago right now. So Herbert's got to develop that kind of chemistry relationships with all the other guys. And, I think that's the only thing they're going to miss. But maybe to your point, Steve, they out of the gate just start running the football. And that's a Jim Harbaugh type of offense right there, where they run the ball, they control the ball, and it's not like high flying like we're used to seeing from Justin Herbert and company.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And by the way, there are people a little concerned. Let's be honest. They feel like, the Chargers with the foot injury could get off to a slow start. It's very possible that's the case. And you're right. Ramping up to game action is not something that you can handle overnight. It takes a little while. Not to mention a foot injury is always a serious one too. Just ask the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. But on the flip side, like Aaron Rodgers is there now. He's just not going to play in the preseason. And that's another interesting storyline. The Jets have already said that they probably will keep Aaron Rodgers out of the entire preseason and ready to go for the regular season. And you know what? again, they're so worried about injuries. I see it both ways, right? The preseason is completely meaningless, meaning the games don't count, and other than the rookies that are fighting for jobs, nobody cares. But Aaron Rodgers played 4 snaps all of last year. That was it. And if he is rusty coming out of the gate, well, then the Jets can look at not playing him in the preseason as the biggest reason. But if they play him in the preseason and he gets hurt, just imagine 2 years in a row of this. So, and the Jets have their own issues right now. Their center, Tippmann, is struggling with the exchange with Rodgers. They've had sloppy practices. I mean, you almost feel like they need a game just to get their timing right before the season starts.
Absolutely. We've seen legendary quarterbacks over the years that have played in the preseason before, and even the starters, even if it's just for a drive or one play, I mean, they want to have that chemistry. They don't want to come out rusty when the season starts. They want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So I honestly would like to see Aaron Rodgers for a drive, just to see him get, back to the groove of things, because we all know what he's capable of, Steve, if he's on the field. So it'll be interesting to see if him and Tippmann can get this exchange figured out.
I'd like to see him for a half of football. Forget a drive. I mean, drives are nothing. You can play like 3 or 4 snaps, and then, let's say you go 3 and out. What does that prove you? Absolutely nothing. I mean, I'd like to see him play a little bit. And the truth is, if you're afraid that he's going to get hurt playing an exhibition game, good luck getting him through the whole regular season. You've got 17 games to worry about. And it kind of scares me that the Jets are so nervous about Aaron's health going into this season that they're afraid to trot him out there at all for any exhibition snaps.
Yeah, it's a little worrisome. And I mean, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, it's worrisome for them too. 2 guys that I think are on the hot seat coming into this season. Saleh being hired back in 2021 by owner Woody Johnson. They haven't exactly seen much winning since. Joe Douglas has been with the Jets since 2019, and he's put together some great talent out there. I mean, look at that defense. They've really come into their own over the last couple years. But still, I mean, I'm looking at Saleh and Joe Douglas too, and if the Jets, if they don't, perform to expectations this upcoming season, I think they could be on their way out as well.
And back to the Chargers for a second and Justin Herbert. Plantar fascia is a very serious foot injury. It's no fun. And look at Joe Burrow last year. He's a great example. Misses the whole preseason. And Joe Burrow was up and down all year last year. He was never comfortable. Not to mention, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, his 4th in 5 years out there with the Chargers. There's a lot for Justin Herbert to learn right now. So that's the other issue, is he's not even going to be practicing either. So to me, this injury and this absence can really hurt the Chargers going into the first month of the season.
I just, every year you could talk yourself into this team being a playoff contender, Steve, but this year, you just look at that division right there. I mean, the Chiefs, put them in pen. They're going to go to the playoffs. If they win the division or not, they're making the playoffs. The Broncos, I'm writing them off this year. I don't even care about them. But the Raiders are that team that I think a lot of people are just kind of overlooking right now, who actually might punch above their weight class a little bit. Not to mention how difficult it is to just make the playoffs, period, in the AFC. You've got Burrow. You've got Josh Allen. You've got Lamar Jackson. You have teams like the Texans, who are rising up right now and showing what they can do. So as far as if you're a team in the AFC West, maybe it's not this year. Maybe you're playing for a couple seasons down the line. I just don't know if this roster that the Chargers are going to trot out there is going to be a contender right away.
I don't think so. I just don't. I mean, the division is difficult as it is. You still have the Raiders. You still have the Chiefs. And then I'm interested in the Broncos this year. I don't know what to expect from them, but I'm interested in them. But you want to know something? I don't see Jim Harbaugh as a coach that's coming back to struggle. He's a winner. That guy usually wins wherever he goes. So can you really see Jim Harbaugh having a mediocre to bad season this year in L.A.?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think, to your point, Lane Frank and the Jim Harbaugh lovers out there would say, no, they're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be a team that's going to be really impressive out there. But Are we trusting Justin Herbert right away? He's a career 500 winner out there as far as the quarterback goes. I feel like, yes, he has all the talent in the world. It's like Matthew Stafford when he was on the Lions. All the talent in the world, and you love what he does, but you get a little worried when he comes to just crunch time moments or playoff situations. Even Phillip Rivers, you think about how talented, how many numbers that he put up there with the Chargers. It felt like he was doing more with less versus Herbert, at least last year. Felt like that team had a lot of talent. They just didn't have any success.
I feel like that's why people think Phillip Rivers could be a Hall of Famer, because of that very reason right there. Spent his whole career like that, practically. So, yeah, it's a good storyline as well to keep an eye on. A lot of good quarterback storylines early on in training camp right now. Will Dak Prescott get a new deal? What's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers when the season starts up and they have to go play at San Francisco? Oh, and by the way, speaking of San Francisco, word out of 49ers camp is Brock Purdy is an interception-throwing machine through the first 5-6 days of practice. And he's throwing picks every practice. Threw 3 of them a couple of days ago, and all of a sudden, there are people worrying about Brock Purdy, which I think is completely a big overreaction. It's just training camp. It is completely meaningless. Brock Purdy has been as steady as any quarterback in the league the last season plus, and there's no reason to believe that all of a sudden he is going to be a quarterback that can't that can't complete a pass to the team with his jersey.
Yeah, I'm not worried whatsoever about that 49ers team. They still have a stellar roster all across the board. They have question marks when it comes to Ayuk still and all that. I get it, but this is a team that I expect to continue to be a contender, and it's because Brock Purdy is playing like a top 10 quarterback, and he probably is, Steve. He probably is. And that says a lot about how there's a drop-off after about 6 or so in the NFL, and it's top-heavy in the league when it comes to quarterbacks, but there is a drop-off. Purdy is probably between 7 to 11 at least in the rankings of quarterbacks, and it's just more to the point of there are talented quarterbacks, there are winning quarterbacks, and then there are people who are like game managers. I think he's a winning quarterback and a game manager out there. Yeah, that's what Brock Purdy has offered so far.
I feel that's pretty accurate too. I really do. As we hit the bottom of the hour right now. But again, great storyline to talk about with you. We'd love to hear you get your thoughts on really the NFL and some of the biggest names out there right now heading into the 2024 season that is right around the corner, a month away. Not a month, like 6 weeks away. Let's put it that way. 505-6009. That is our telephone number to get right on in and through to the show. We've got some lines available. We'd love to hear from you as we send it off right now to Michael Plundo, standing by with this Sports Center update. Keep things moving right now. 505-6009, our telephone number. Here's Domingo joining us next on the show. Domingo, happy Friday. What's going on?
Happy Friday, Cappy. Have you been watching the Olympics?
Every night, Domingo, every night. How about you?
Yeah, me too. I just watched it from Canal 5. But no, today I want to talk about that Olympic scandal that they had with Canada. That was humiliating. But, hey, they got lucky during the next round.
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole drone thing with flying drones over to try to spy on teams is I don't know how much of that is done in other countries, but obviously Canada had to deal with that, the embarrassment, but that has now been forgotten as far as their performance goes, for sure.
Yeah, this is not the only scandal in soccer this summer. There was also a World Cup qualifier in Asia. Oh, I just gave it away. Yeah, World Cup qualifier in Asia. And you want to make a guess who started that scandal?
Nah, I'm tired of guessing. Who was it?
It was Qatar who cheated India out of the World Cup on one of those Asian qualifiers. Here's how it goes. Qatar kicked the goal out of bounds and then kicked it back and made a goal, and the refs got away. And let's just say the refs counted the goal and they cheated India out of the World Cup qualifiers.
It happens. Cheating happens in all sports. Look, it happened in baseball with the trash cans and the banging with the Astros. It happens. You got sign stealing in baseball. You got things going on in football, Deflategate. Look at all the craziness that we've seen in sports. So am I really surprised that there's shenanigans in European football the way there is here in American football and American sports? Absolutely not.
It's still embarrassing, but hey, yeah, at least this is, but still it's part of that summer soccer.
Yep, there you go. Part of the summer of soccer. I agree with you, Domingo. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you getting in. Look, scandals happen everywhere, folks. That's just the bottom line. You think about what we've seen in sports. You could probably put scandals in every sport in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's individuals failing drug tests, drones to spy. We all know about all the stuff Belichick was involved with. We remember also the Bounty Gate that was going on years ago. There's always something happening in the world of sports that's not always on the up and up. That's just we just have to come to accept that.
I agree. I would also say that there's a big difference between scandals and conspiracies. We've seen some recent conspiracies being dispelled across whether it's the Olympics, whether it's sports, in other categories like you're mentioning, football, basketball. Scandals are one thing. Conspiracies feels like we buy into way too many of these nowadays. Like how Gator Richards sometimes calls in and says NFLE and NFL entertainment. I don't buy into a lot of those conspiracies. I'll buy into the scandals because those are legit and those are fact-based,
Meanwhile, the U.S. soccer team lost 4-0 today to Morocco, and now they're out of the tournament. And
so
that's
disappointing.
It is disappointing. And you know what's interesting? And maybe our listeners can chime in on this, because I don't have the answer to this question. Will the U.S. ever turn the corner in soccer or football, however you want to call it, because it's football around the rest of the world. Here it's just it's soccer, but there's American football and then there's football, and this is football we're talking about here. But will the Americans ever turn the corner against the rest of the world powers, or should we just come to expect disappointing finish after disappointing finish, whether it's the World Cup, the Olympics, any of those world tournaments? Is that just going to be the norm? Because I almost feel like no matter what this country tries to put out there, it's never good enough.
There's not even a commitment to the development of the sport. I think that's why it's so poor, Steve. I feel like when you just talk about soccer development in the U.S., it's nowhere even close to what it is in Europe or what it is in other countries and other areas. I would say the U.S. is just so behind. Like, if there was commitment to the development of soccer, the same way there is for basketball, the same way there is for football, look at those two sports just alone. I would put soccer, as far as youth goes, in a different category. There's so much emphasis when it comes to travel ball, even in baseball, even in basketball. I feel like it's different in soccer in terms of the development. If you really want to be developed, the best players out of America, they play here a little bit, and then they go off and play in Europe. And that's
right.
Where they really fine-tune their skills and fine-tune what they're able to do on the pitch.
I just don't think we're ever going to break through in this sport. Because you think about this, okay? When you're dealing with sports that kids play here in this country, I would say number one right now, the most popular sport, do we go football or basketball or baseball, for that matter? Those three. And then maybe you have soccer after that. Where does soccer even find itself in the pecking order of youth sports in this country? Where do we see it? I'll tell you this much. For women's sports, soccer's pretty high up. It really is. And the U.S. has always had a pretty dominant women's soccer team. For the men, it's the exact opposite. They're just in search, and I don't know if they're ever going to find it.
All right, here we go. The Aspen Institute and Utah State University did a survey back in 2020, Steve. They pulled over 400 400 local statewide parents, and then they went off and did 8,000 across the country. They found 37% of children play basketball, 25% play soccer, and then the other 24% were baseball, and then the rest of the pie is other. So there you go.
So football's not on that list.
Football is in there, but it's also, if you think about it, it's kind of niche when it's male dominated, boy dominated right there, and it's probably a smaller portion of the pie. Knowing that California, states like that, they ban football all the way until you're like middle school age.
Maybe it's possible that kids play soccer, but as they grow up, then as they get older, they morph into either baseball, basketball, or football. Maybe that's the situation. And by the time they're at a certain age, they don't play soccer anymore.
Yeah, this is, okay, so here's another one. This is by Project Play, ages 13 through 17 right here. This is a really interesting one right here, so showing that football is growing big time as far as team sports go. It went from having maybe close to like 8% to now it's all the way up to 18%, and that includes flag football out there too. So 13 through 17-year-olds, very popular sport. I would also say hockey, and they throw field hockey in this mix too. It's a rapidly growing sport as well.
Interesting. All right. 2 lines are open, 505-6009 if you want to weigh in. I'd love to get the El Paso take on this as well. And do El Pasoans think that soccer can never break through, or will it always be this? Is this what we're just going to be used to? A disappointment year after year after year in terms of going up against the best in the world. Here is Brian from downtown. He joins us next. Hey, Brian, how are you? Brian, are you there? Let me see if I can get Brian back. Hang on. Let me try Brian one more time. Brian, are you there? Oh, we lost Brian. All right. Call back, Brian. We'll get you on. In the meantime, let's take a timeout. We've got lines open if you want to weigh in. Soccer. Is this just the norm? Disappointment year after year? We'll cover it next. Sports Talk continues. 600 ESPN El Paso. Brian from downtown is back. Let's get right to him. 505-6009, our telephone number. Brian, thanks for the call.
Well, listen, guys, there is no other country on the planet that has so many completely organized sports, starting from 4 years old all the way through college and then to the pros, as the United States does.
Great point.
Look, I have a freshman at Franklin who, over the past several years, has tried them all. He was. Well, I've got videos of him at age 4. Those indoor soccer places along on the west side of town, off of Doniphan. Where they're scooting around, those little kids. It's amazing. But I mean, he runs track for every summer for a private track club. In fact, this summer he's been in Denver. He's been in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Running track. And he made his decision. He was a freshman at Franklin in football, and he played every single down. He was a DB on the defense, a wide receiver on offense, and he was the long snapper. He never left the field. So, I mean, he's an athletically inclined kid, and he has chosen track and field to be his sport. But he's tried them all. And I think that I have to hand it to his parents that allowed him to kind of feel his way around. He was really, really good in football and real good in track, and not so good in baseball and soccer. But they let him figure out what he was the best in, and gave him his head and let him. And now he's a junior Olympian in track. That's
fantastic. But you bring up a great point. That's track. Then there's basketball. Then there's baseball. Then there's golf. Then there's tennis. Then there's football and right. Basketball. So when you think about soccer, you're right. There's so many sports to play here. Most countries, you play 1 or 2 or maybe 3, but you don't play 10 to 15.
Yeah, and I feel for those who love soccer, and maybe they are not, or their family is not from this country, and have a deep feel love for the sport of soccer because of other countries that they may come from. Well, I'm sorry, but it's not number 1, number 2, number 3, or even number 4 on the list of an American kid that's growing up in the Midwest. I mean, he may excel in soccer and choose that as a sport, but there's just too much competition for his talent.
No, I get it, and I got news for you. I've got buddies who grew up in this country, love all sports, and they love soccer just like those that grew up in another country do. And it frustrates them as much as it frustrates everybody, knowing that this country is just not able to turn the corner, despite so many great players that play soccer. It's just not enough when they go on the world stage against everybody else.
It's because of the competition from the other sports. I don't think there's a prejudice against soccer. I played soccer in high school in Italy, but I mean, and our baseball team really sucked. And I wasn't very good at that either, but I was better at soccer.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have a love for soccer, and I always have. And I follow Italy, and in the Italian leagues, I follow Roma.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just me. But from your typical American kid growing up in most states, they're more inclined to go with football, basketball, and baseball than the fourth option, which is soccer.
That's a great point. Brian, good stuff.
And then there's always track and field.
Yep, that's true. Appreciate the call.
Thanks.
Brian from downtown getting in on the show. By the way, speaking of Roma, I was there, and I went into the Roma Pro Shop, and I saw the gear, and ended up, I think we picked up some stuff for Joel, and yeah, it was cool because it's huge over there. Like he said, you go to Italy, the Italian Pro League is a big deal. So is the country and everything else. And and think about this: if you're in Italy, what's the biggest sports? Basketball is big. You have pro leagues. A lot of Americans go play in Italy when they go play pro. They do.
Very true.
And then you have soccer and those or football, and those are the big two right now. And after that, I'm sure they've got there's other sports, but those two reign supreme.
You could just do so many secondary sports here and make it your primary sport, right? I shouldn't say secondary, but like even fencing or even golf or even tennis. You can make these sports your primary sports here in the U.S.
Yeah, you really can. All right, 505-6009. That is our telephone number as we continue here on Sports Talk. If you would like to follow that call up with Brian from downtown, we'd love to hear from you, especially since we've got just a couple of minutes left to go in the hour. Let's say hello to Lance. Lance joins us next on the phones. How you doing, Lance? What's going on?
Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate it.
Good to hear it, man. I know you guys have been talking about soccer here in the U.S., and I don't know if it's ever really going to catch on. That was the creation of the MLS after the '94 World Cup, but they really didn't have a lot of fanfare because there weren't a lot of big names that were going to the MLS until I think David Beckham signed with the LA Galaxy, and after that, that's when you started to see some of the bigger names, but they were in the tail end of their career. Now you're starting to see some bigger names that are coming in, giving it more exposure. They might not be at their prime, but I mean they're still pretty close to it. So you're starting to see more people coming out. Will it be the number one sport? Probably not. But I mean, it all starts with the culture. I mean,
yeah,
you got to get a big name coach. I know they tried to get a Jurgen Klopp, and he turned them down. But if they can find a way to get a big name and create some buzz and can really turn the team around, I think they can do some really good things.
Here's the thing you mentioned. Messi was a huge name for MLS, and the truth is that it's a growing sport professionally here. It's going to take time. It's only been 30 years. You don't just develop a winner overnight. It does take more and more time, but we've seen really good talent. I mean, you could look over the years and see some of the best players, and we've got Pulisic now. We also had Donovan, and we've had terrific individual players and team players, but sometimes you're right. You need the right formation, you need the right coach, and you need the right system to execute that against the best in the world.
But if you also notice with those bigger names that the U.S. have had, like Donovan and Dempsey and Pulisic, they've all had to go to Europe at some point to get better. And
right.
I mean, it's pretty clear that Europe has the best soccer in the world. They have the best leagues in the world. And that's the only way that if the U.S. wants to get more known on a global scale, they got to find a way to get more players over to Europe.
Well, let's hope that happens down the road, too. Lance, appreciate it. Thanks for the call. Wrapping us up in hour number 1 here on Sports Talk. 1 down, an hour and a half left to go. We got plenty more in store for you as we make our way to the weekend. We'd love to hear more of your calls. We'll check Twitter and X and also the app and keep things moving right here. 600 ESPN El Paso. We'll breakdown of that here on the program today, so we'll look forward to that. Plus, Tim Haggerty's story time, and that's also to come. But before we do any of that, and if you're just joining us, we've talked soccer specifically, why the USA just continues to disappoint on the world's biggest stage, whether it's the World Cup, whether it's CONCACAF, whether it's in this particular situation the Olympics. It just seems like, and take nothing away from Morocco. It's a terrific. That's a terrific power, and they were a Final Four team in the World Cup, I believe. But you don't lose 4-0. That's the problem. It just looks bad. It's a bad way to exit this particular Olympic tournament. That's all.
It is. And I know that Domingo in our app chat brought up that Morocco finished in the top 4 of the World Cup. And, yeah, it's a valid point right there. But I would also say this. For Team USA, you hold yourself to a higher standard. These aren't the same players necessarily who were trotted out there for the World Cup on both ends. And for the U.S., hold yourself to a higher standard. Start winning more matches in these bigger games. You disappointed in the CONCACAF recently, in the Copa recently, and now another one translating here to the Olympics. So just a tough year for them.
It has been, and maybe some of the other callers said it best. I think it was Lance who said until they get the right coach in there that can do the kind of things that they need to do to really be competitive against the best in the world, these are outcomes that we should almost start to expect around.
Yeah, it's sad to say, man, but it's probably the truth. And need to be more popularity among the sport. If you're a youth member right now, you're growing up watching this team, you're thinking, ugh, man, I don't know if I want to get behind this right here.
Today was also day 2 of UTEP football practice. I was not out there today. Did you have a chance to go by? Or
no, I did not go.
Okay, so next week we'll have a chance to check that out.
Actually, tomorrow they'll have an opportunity, quote unquote, the third day or whatever. So 10:30 in the morning for media. So there you go.
Is that what it's going to be? So do they practice at like 8:30 and then they're done by 10:30? Is that how it's going to work?
No, it's a 10:30 start.
So it starts at 10:30, so the media can watch for about 15 minutes. And then, or 20 minutes, and then after that, we go have breakfast, and then come back for post after it's all done.
Yeah, not to be a downer, but it's just not a lot you're going to get, man. I mean, you're gonna get a lot post practice from players, coaches, interviews, and all that kind of stuff. They're always great about answering a lot, but I mean, watching them stretch, what are you going to get from that?
Is that what you were able? So, like yesterday, didn't you at least get a chance to see some passes being thrown before?
I saw some routes.
Yeah.
Saw some of that, but that's it. It wasn't even team stuff. So
it was all individual stuff.
Yeah, all individual skill work.
How much did you get to watch them stretch? How long would that take?
Well, it was like 25 minutes yesterday, but I also felt like it was a little extended yesterday, knowing that it was the first one.
So they gave you a little extra. They gave you a little extra taste.
Yeah, I guess so.
Fantastic. We'll talk more about that as well. Plus, the minors in the Bahamas. And so far, so good. We'll tell you what happened in their first matchup and who led the way for the UTEP basketball team. That's all coming up this hour. But before we do anything, let's go to Orly. He leads us off in hour number 2, 505-6009. Orly, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Steve. Say, you're talking about soccer. As you know, I'm not a fan of it. And I think a lot of the problem, you're never going to be a powerhouse. The United States is a huge country. Has a lot of major sports. Look at these other countries, Morocco, Mexico. They don't have a lot of sports. Their big sport is soccer. That's all they follow. That's it. That's their national sport. The United States has abundance of sports that other people follow. You're not, it's just like my generation. We're not soccer fans. We didn't grow up with it. We don't care for it. But you think about it, that's the reason. You've got a country in the United States that follows football, basketball. Lately, I've been following lacrosse. That's a lot of fun to watch. But you think about it, there's your problem. You're never going to be the number one sport in the United States. You got football, basketball, somewhat baseball. But yeah, soccer doesn't even. I don't think they line up even close to what people expected to be in the United States. That's my take.
No, I feel like there are more choices here than other places around the world. Orly, I completely do agree with that. But then again, you think of how large this country is and how many people do play the sport, and you would hope that you can take all of those athletes and find a way to at least turn that into a successful national team.
Well, you've got a lot of these kids that have dual citizenships. They don't play for the United States. They'll go play for Spain, Mexico, and other countries that do have a following for soccer.
Yeah.
And like I said, and that's why it's not going to change. It's not the coaching, it's the athletes. There's other sports that people rather watch. I, for one, rather watch football, basketball, college basketball. I don't watch the NBA. But yeah, there's a lot of people that follow those are the major sports in the United States. Soccer's not up there. Yeah, they got a good following, but it's not number one. When once pro football starts, in the next 3 weeks, yeah, you're going to see a difference.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing, Orly. Soccer doesn't need to be number one. You know, if this country put together a better team that did bigger things, they would be just fine. You know, like more and more people would watch if they were more successful. I mean, they're always going to be behind football, and they're always going to be behind basketball, and they're always going to be behind baseball. But there's still a good niche for it if they're able to win. They'll always pick up the casual fans, just like casual fans started watching Tiger, even though they might not have been golfers, but they were captivated by what Tiger Woods was able to do. So that's what I mean. Or the Williams sisters. You don't have to play tennis to watch Serena and Venus Williams and watch them dominate throughout the course of their careers. That's kind of what I'm talking about with soccer.
No, I disagree. I don't think it'll ever hit the United States as a popular number one sport. It's not the national sport in the United States.
Right, but Orly, I guess you're still missing what I'm saying. It doesn't have to, Orly, it doesn't have to be the number one sport. It could be number 4 or number 5, and as long as they're winning and doing well, the country will still watch because this country loves winners. They want to watch winners. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know, Steve. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it ever being a powerhouse in the world. Don't see it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Take care, guys. Have a good day.
Have a good weekend. All right. And I don't think it has to be number one for it to have the kind of popularity that it needs. It just needs, look at all the millions of people that play the sport. You just got to find a group of 20 that can ultimately compete against the best in the world, have the best coaches out there that can develop these teams into national powers, and that's it. It seems easy on paper. It seems like an easy formula, but, Adrian, it's not. And that's the biggest issue right now. Because the truth is, do our best athletes play basketball and football and baseball? You might say yes, but you still have world-class athletes that do play this sport here in this country and are capable of going over to Europe and playing well and being stars over there. So the bigger question is, why is it so difficult to find coaches that can put this group together in the best way possible and develop the kind of winning system that they need to excel against the rest of the world?
I don't know how feasible this is, but Alberto is always arguing to me, like, you know, the U.S. needs somebody who can really coach, but they might not speak English. And I don't know if, the U.S. would actually, accept a coach like that. And maybe you have to get somebody who doesn't necessarily speak English right now, and you get a translator to help out. And you're just compromising for the betterment of your program, compromising so you can actually grow as an organization. So I don't feel like you should be in a place, if you're the U.S., where you can be picky necessarily. And if you look at it from an outside perspective, you look at the U.S. job, is it a desirable job too? There's so much to fix within this organization, and just to trying to make it more of a winning program, a winning soccer culture, I don't know how feasible that is as well, as far as it just being a desirable job.
13 past the hour as we continue here on Sports Talk. 505-6009. That is our telephone number, 505-6009. All right, earlier today, UTEP, in their first of 2 in the Bahamas, were able to come away a winner. They defeated the pro team in the Bahamas by 19 points. I don't know who they played, but I do know they were pretty impressive when it was all said and done.
Yeah, as an elite program, Steve, it's called Raw Talent Elite, and when I say elite, I mean club, prep school type of deal, that kind of thing. So UTEP defeated them. It was 103-84. The first reactions were, well, they allowed 84 points. I think the biggest emphasis all offseason long for this UTEP team is offense. So not really concerned on my side as far as the points the other team scored. I am more concerned as to how UTEP is progressing offensively. Heard today that they had nice production from different guys, including Otis Frazier, who led the way, 19 points. He had 4 triples. That's impressive right there in itself. You want to see that from your best player right there, and Otis Frazier the third. Ahmad Bynum, he's one of the newcomers. He comes from Trinity Valley Community College. He scored 17 for the Miners. Corey Camper Jr., he shined with 17 and 4 steals. David Terrell Jr., he had 6 turnovers, but he had 8 assists to those 6 turnovers. Also contributed with 11 points and 4 steals. So interesting game there for the Miners. They play the Bahamas All-Stars tomorrow, so that'll be the matchup they have on deck.
I guess the interesting thing is this also, Adrian. I think they had a total of 5 guys finish in double figures when it was all said and done. But they didn't shoot the 3-ball particularly well in this game outside of Otis Frazier, who was good. And really Ahmad Bynum shot the ball well from 3 as well. But some of them struggled shooting the ball from 3. They also were less than 60% from the line. So those are just some things. It's their first game, and I don't want to nitpick because they'll probably button that stuff up in a hurry, but you would like to see them ultimately shoot better from the foul line and better from three-point land, although it is good to see them shoot nearly 50% from the game, out-rebound this team, and have 5 guys in double figures.
I like the 67% from two-point shots as well. I think that when you're looking at this UTEP team, you want to see more offense. You want to see them kind of find their groove, and it's good that they're playing these meaningless games here in August so they can rectify any issues ahead of the actual season beginning, which, by the way, exhibition game gets underway October 28th against New Mexico. So that's, I guess, your official start for UTEP basketball. Good.
Looking forward to that. And by the way, that New Mexico game is going to be a fun one. We might need to find a way to get down there for that, or at least make sure that game is on our station.
A Monday night game, so we got to make it happen, man.
I love it. All right, we'll come back with more in a moment. 17 past the hour as we continue and go to Charlie 1 for this traffic update. Back here on Sports Talk as we continue. Hey, by the way, this is kind of cool. I didn't realize this, but apparently UNC Wilmington, East Carolina, Louisville, UTEP, Rhode Island, they're all there in the Bahamas. They're all getting a chance to play these games. That's also very nice. I love that.
Couldn't they just play a little exhibition game against each other? UTEP go up against a little East Carolina, just see how they play and fare against each other. That'd be funny.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be the ultimate? It really would.
Yeah, this is an awesome deal, and I believe last week most of the women's teams, like same teams. I know that Louisville women's squad, they were there the week before, but it's also really good prep for some of these academies that are out there in the Bahamas, like we just mentioned, RTE and the Bahamas All-Star Group. So, yeah, there you go.
Anyway, you're right. But that final score game was 103-84, and appreciate the FIBA Live Stats feed, Adrian. We get the opportunity to see the full box scores online, so we can kind of follow things that way as well. It's nice.
I like the fact that UTEP's just in this, man. Been a while since they've gone overseas. Last time they did it, 2017, Puerto Rico. This time, around, they get a chance to do it here and go off to the Bahamas. So once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this bunch.
This comes from Esteban. Steve, the U.S. dominates in basketball, so let other countries have their soccer. Stop being greedy.
It's not too much to ask.
By the way,
let's just world domination for every sport.
We don't always dominate in basketball. We've had a couple of some clunkers as far as the Olympic Games go.
Very true. Very true. 92 made it really popular to join Team USA basketball. But since then, we've had our share of clunkers out there. So, Yeah, I'm with you.
You know what else 92 did? It gave the rest of the world a wake-up call and said, you better start getting better soon, or the United States is going to be hanging golds every 4 years for the rest of eternity.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's why this time around you're seeing teams like Germany really gear up. That's a tough team right there. I'm officially worried. I'm in that category right there, and I'm officially not worried about France if I'm Team USA.
All right. So Germany is the team you're worried about the most right now for basketball.
For basketball, for sure. Franz Wagner killing it for them. People forget he can score, so that's a big thing. And people also forget Dennis Schroeder was one of the top defenders against Steph Curry in the 2020 bubble run when the Lakers went all the way and won it. So, yeah, give Dennis Schroeder his credit for sure.
Are there a lot of Americans that also have other nationalities in their lineage that are playing for the rest of the world right now?
Yes. I know the Bahamas got kind of like the best of the rest. They got guys like Klay Thompson, guys like Buddy Hield, those types of players right there. So Bahamas was an interesting one this time around. They didn't really make a lot of noise, in my opinion, Steve. The other Americans that didn't have a chance to make Team USA, some of them played for that 3-on-3, that Olympics, I guess, event that's going on right now as well. So just kind of interesting stuff. But Team Canada, Team Germany, and Team France, those are like the best ones in my opinion.
I just turned my head, and what am I seeing? ESPN The Ocho is back. Are we going to get like full ESPN The Ocho coverage for like the whole weekend, or is this just one particular game with the Savannah Bananas as part of ESPN The Ocho?
I have no clue what this is right here, Steve, but I like it. There's just a lot of wild stuff going on right here. So good stuff, man. I'm not sure what's going on with The Ocho, though.
I need to find out. This is the Party Animals against the Savannah Bananas, and it's on ESPN right now, which is called ESPN The Ocho. Let me see. We got the Professional Fighters League coming up after that, and I just want to see if we're going to become the Ocho again, or if this feed just, what it looks like, Adrian? I think they just took this off of the Ocho from that game, and they're just playing it. That's all. I was really hoping we were going to have like Ocho coverage all weekend, but I don't necessarily know if ESPN's going back to the Ocho.
It's all Olympics right now. ESPN's just scrapping, trying to, get as many people to tune in as possible out here. Right here, because NBC and Peacock, they're dominating things right now.
Look at this. On ESPN2, which is also the Ocho, we have big coverage of slippery stairs. Look at this thing that's going on where you've got essentially people wearing, I don't even know. How would you even describe what we are watching right now? It's like they are trying to go up a staircase that is so slippery, they're all crawling like babies trying to get up there without falling down.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it right
and look,
there.
And they're getting
a
wet.
Great job.
And somebody's trying to squirt them in the process. So when they're going up, they got... How is this even part of... I go, it has to be the Ocho, that's why. This is how you combat Olympic coverage. You turn ESPN into the Ocho this weekend.
Yeah, and this is the Olympics for crazy sports, so that's what the Ocho is. Hey, forget the Olympics going on. Let's just watch some slippery stair climbing.
Oh, wow. Somebody got it. You ring the bell. You get to the top of the stairs after falling down a million times, and then you get to ring the bell. So, listen to this. This is good. I'm happy I checked this. Later tonight, we've got cornhole at 6. That's big. The U.S. Forces Championship cornhole. Then we're going to have the Pro Breaking Tour, the Taboo feature show at 8 o'clock. Then we've got the Silverback Breaking Invitational at 8:30. And then Dodgeball, the movie, is coming on into the Corgi races at Emerald Downs. The World Dog Surfing Championships are coming up. We've got the One-Wheel World Championships as well. The Noblesville bed races, followed by the U.S. Air Guitar Championships at 1:30 in the morning. I think we've got some quality programming on the Ocho tonight.
Yeah, there's just nothing going on right now in sports, Steve. So let's throw on all these championship, events out of the Ocho, shine a light on some alternate sports out there. And, hey, if you're getting tired of the Olympics, you can just switch it over to the Ocho.
What sounds most interesting to you? E-scooter, which is electric scooter racing, zone ball, which I've never even seen before. There's also Speed Chess Championships. How about the Microsoft Excel World Championship? I mean,
that's the one.
If you've ever tried to really master Excel, this is the opportunity for you to do so.
That's the one right there. Microsoft Excel Championships. That's so funny. I have no clue what that would even be like. As somebody who likes Excel, when I'm using a lot of things for work, yeah, man, that sounds funny to me. That I can't even believe there's a sport with that.
We've got Battle of the Bowie, the National Putting Tour from Scottsdale, the Forehand Strike U.S. Open, the SXY National Beach Tennis Invitational, the top beach tennis players in the world. We also then go right into, so I think Saturday morning things finally get back to normal. So between now and 10 a.m., if you watch ESPN2, nicknamed the Ocho, it is the most obscure sports. It's like that one time of the year where ESPN becomes the Ocho. So you could set the DVR, or if you want to take a break from mainstream Olympic sports or baseball, go right to the Ocho and watch everything you want.
Yeah, just crazy stuff right there. I'm with the cornhole ones, man. I'm cool with those. That's good stuff.
Michael, are there any of those sports I just mentioned that really seem to appeal to you?
E-scooter, that's one for sure.
All right. How about the slippery stairs?
That's definitely an interesting one as well. And, being a slip and slide user, I think, I don't know if I want to try slippery stairs. I feel like that would hurt a lot more.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty painful. That's why they're wearing full wetsuits right now in the slippery stairs competition. So they need to get as much traction as possible considering how wet the stairs are. All right, bottom of the hour. More in a moment. First, here he is, the one and only Michael Plundo with SportsCenter. Out there. We, believe it or not, I know this going off all that holes is zero a real number. We can use other things besides O's.
We can, Steve, but, there's people listening, and there's people that don't always agree with us, and that's okay, but I think I'm going to go with I think that sounds more polished.
Did you eat a lot of Cheerios as a kid?
Yes, I was a big cereal kid in general.
I can imagine, because, if you ate those O's, those toasted O's, you probably are throwing those in as baseball scores as well. So
nothing will beat Cocoa Puffs. That was my favorite, though.
Hey, the good news is this. You are the first on-air sports host I've ever heard who has ever given scores constantly with O's. I've never heard that until you. So
wow,
makes you feel better. So you are starting a new trend, and maybe others will start to follow you, realizing that O's will become mainstream when talking about zeros in sports.
Hey, maybe, I want to have an influence on that, and who knows, we could see people call in and, giving me a shout-out for that, so we'll see.
There you go. I mean, O to O, that is, you're in your own world, man, and I like that. That's good. You might be one, you never know. Maybe everybody's going to start to eventually take that, hear you're going to go viral, and you're going to be the O-Man.
I would like to have that title. I've had many, but the O-Man has not been one yet, so we could get that going here.
All right, we'll work on that. 34 past the hour as we continue here on Sports Talk. 505-6009. That is our telephone number to get into the show. 505-6009. This came in from Noah on Twitter. Another sport that has decayed on the Olympic stage, boxing. Haven't had an American Olympic gold medalist in men's boxing since Andre Ward 20 years ago, 2004. That's how long the Olympic boxing drought is. Hard to believe, guys, that we're talking 20 years here with the great Andre Ward.
I can't even tell you who's on the card for American boxers right now competing in Paris. So, that's on me. But also that's on how this sport has really changed. When you talk about combat sports in general, there's so many politics when it comes to just boxing in particular. I'm bummed that this is not more popular for fighters to compete here for the U.S. in this sport.
Look, the fact is right now, what is the biggest boxing topic in the Olympics? It's the situation involving the female boxers competing despite the gender controversy. Truth is, that is what is making all the headlines right now in boxing. Not your American hopefuls or somebody else that's taking the sport by storm this Olympics. It's talking about controversy, which is another shame when you really look at how everything is going down.
Yeah, and I don't really like the word controversy, Steve. This is more like another conspiracy. This is wrong. Like I feel like like this is just a ridiculous story. Khalif, who is being questioned on her gender right now, she's born a woman. She has a sex disorder that gives her higher testosterone, which as a result, resulted in a disqualification back in 2023 with a different, an IBA ruling. So now it's an IOC that allowed her to fight. And it's not like she's like towering over everybody. You look at her boxing record; she's lost 5 fights. She's actually lost to the fighter that she beat yesterday. I think this is completely ridiculous. It's been completely politicized. Just look at the facts, man. She's always been a woman.
On the other one is also Lin Yuting. That is a double world champion from Taiwan. Also, just getting cleared now to compete in the Olympics.
I haven't read this one right here.
Yep, she was disqualified also by the International Boxing Association in 2023 for the World Championships, doing the same thing. Failed an unspecified gender eligibility test.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that one right there. The only one I know is about Khalif, who is indeed a woman. Again, just has one of those sex disorders where she has a higher testosterone level than other people. But it could be anybody. It could be any female who might have a higher testosterone level versus an actual male. So there you go.
Do we also are there any American Olympic hopefuls in boxing that we know of?
No, that's what I was mentioning right now. I don't even know who's on the card. I couldn't even name anybody off this.
I know. It's a shame, but that's just kind of how things are going right now. So you're right about that. In fact, I'm looking, I think this weekend, by the way, for boxing, we have the semifinals for both the men's and the women's. That's what we're dealing with right now. We have boxing semifinals. So, yeah, it's kind of tough to find results unless you're watching around-the-clock coverage of NBC or Peacock and seeing all the boxing that's going on right now.
Yeah, maybe they didn't even make it this far, Steve. Like whichever fighter was out there representing America, maybe they didn't even make it to this point right here because I don't see anybody, or I'm trying to get some names here on my side. I'm not finding a lot of information on it.
Okay. Well, let's see how things go. And by the way, apparently we're still a good week or so away from the men's and women's handball gold and bronze medal matches. That's next weekend. So
that's going to be exciting, man. Handball's been a fun sport to follow here during Paris Olympics.
Handball has been a lot of fun. I'm completely with you on that. In fact, I'm looking right now at the overall medal leaders, and things are really interesting with the U.S. with 43, France with 36, China with 31, and then, you look at golds. China has the most with 13. The U.S. has the most silver, and the U.S. has the most bronze. In fact, 34 of the U.S.'s 43 medals are silver and bronze. So just 9 gold right now, which means they trail China by 4 and France and also Australia by 2.
When we finish up all the track finals, are we going to see the U.S. just skyrocket? I mean,
I feel like that's coming.
What happened yesterday, I just felt like, man, that set the stage for the U.S. just breaking apart from everybody else. Because if the U.S., as they are right now, are able to continue to lead the overall the medals and still flirt with like the top 5 of the gold, once track is over, I feel like the U.S. will just take over for gold medals.
And we've got a lot going on this weekend. We really do. We've got the men's shot put final tomorrow, the women's triple jump final, the mixed 4x400 meter relay final. We've got the women's 100-meter final and the men's decathlon final. That's all tomorrow. And then Sunday, we have the women's high jump final, the men's hammer throw final, and the men's 100-meter final. So there's some good Olympic track coming up this weekend.
Yeah, and this is where I've really been impressed by the U.S. Just a lot of great athletes. They're really distancing themselves. We're getting new names that are popping up out there. Great storylines from it. It all stems from the Netflix documentary that really, I thought, catapulted the excitement for track and field across U.S. stars. So now the fact that they got more eyes on them right now, I think everybody's ready to watch the U.S. shine on the biggest stage possible. Look at what gymnastics did. Mm-hmm. They just catapulted back up to the top. I feel like that's what's going to happen with track.
I think you're right. 505-6009. We're less than an hour away from Chihuahuas baseball. Tim Haggerty will have story time for us in about 30 minutes. Plus, when we come back, we have a biter on Sports Talk. We'll get into that conversation as well. So stay with us. We continue It's Sports Talk in 600 ESPN El Paso.
Studio. Here's Steve Kaplowitz and Adrian Broadus.
All right, we got 30 to go here on the program as we head into the weekend. Looking forward to that on Sports Talk. Michael Plundo with us as well. Adrian Broadus. And soon, who do we have? We have Zay coming in this weekend, or is it going to be someone else?
We'll have both Angel Munoz and UTEP Zay. Angel's got tonight, Fridays, and then Zay comes in on the weekends. He does Saturday, Sunday.
Very nice. I'm excited about that. If you're just tuning in right now, well, you've missed a lot on this program. You really have. But, hey, you know what? We've talked about a little bit of everything. Exciting also that Team USA set a world record in the 4x400 mixed relay. That happened as well earlier today. And anytime we can get a world record from the U.S., we're pretty excited about that, and that went down.
Yeah, and that was only the first opening one for the relay. And I think, Steve, I think they're going to be one to really reckon with. We were talking about it before. This track group right here has been, tested a little bit, but this is their chance to reclaim their spot atop the world and just known as the best track program out there.
No, you're right. We'll look forward to watching that. There's going to be Olympic basketball. Will the Americans be playing this weekend for Olympic Bowl?
Yeah, they play actually at 9:15 in the morning tomorrow. Puerto Rico, who's 0-2 right now. U.S. versus them. Let's see how it goes.
Is that going to be live here at 9:15?
Yes, 9:15 Mountain Time. That's correct.
That's terrific, because I think that's going to be about 5:15 then in Paris that game gets underway.
So
there's an 8-hour difference.
Yeah, and I feel like the U.S. they're going to clobber them. They're going to handle business. Their biggest test early on here in this first group stage was Serbia, and they handled business there. So feeling good about this Team USA for basketball. Let's see how they continue as the quarterfinals draw near.
Greece beat Australia 77-71. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 20 points, 7 rebounds. They're going to try to keep their hopes alive in terms of surviving into the knockout round next week, which, again, is going to be a lot of fun when we talk about the knockout round and seeing who can be the last team standing.
Yeah, Giannis is very impressive to me because this Greece team has really nobody, and he's carrying the weight for everybody right now. They've built a team around him, so they got rebounders, they've got outside shooters, but everything goes through Giannis, and rightfully so. I thought Australia would have had a better showing. They were trending upward as far as the country goes, but, they rely on guys like Ben Simmons, and he doesn't play basketball anymore, and, they rely on guys like a younger player in, his name, Josh Giddey. He's one of their premier players. Patty Mills was one of their premier players before, but he's just getting older. So, yeah, Greece on top. Big shout-out to Giannis. I think he's been fantastic in this Olympics run.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Canada, they were impressive, beating Spain. Canada's going to the knockout round, and they're going to be a sleeper team to watch in this Olympic round.
I would never want to play this team. Like, Dylan Brooks alone, he's like the enemy. Like, he's like the guy who you're going up against, and you just hate going up against him, but he's not afraid of anybody. He's not afraid of KD, not afraid of LeBron, and he's nowhere on their level of talent, but at least he's going in these games unafraid. They also have guys like Lou Dort on their team. SGA, like you mentioned, he's so fantastic. He's like top 5 player in the league, in my opinion. So that you have a player like that. My biggest question was, why didn't Team Canada want Zach Edey on their team, Steve? Do you think about FIBA-style basketball? You think about giants in this sport right now? I know he's only going to be a rookie with Memphis, and he's unproven, but I would have had him on this roster, at least me.
Did Canada actually turn him down?
I don't know how it all went down. He just was left out on the roster. People thought he was going to be on the roster for sure, but he wasn't on it.
Okay. Have we gotten into the Olympic breakdancing yet, or has that not started?
No, I think that's this week, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We talked yesterday about the horses. Like, I guess like the horses have like those like dances and those dance routines. So I think that went up first, interestingly enough.
So I know that next weekend is the bronze and gold and silver medal battles. That's going to be happening for breaking, but I'm assuming the prelims are going to be this weekend, right? We're going to start that?
Maybe so. I haven't seen a lot on the breakdancing. I know this is one of the ones that I think a lot of people are interested on. How do they judge it? How do they assess who's the best in this one right here? So it'd be kind of interesting to see this one. And some of the other ones that a lot of people have been talking about as well. But this is, I think, one that people have their eyes on in a big way.
I'm just looking at tomorrow's events. golf, shooting, equestrian, rowing, cycling, basketball, tennis, table tennis. By the way, table tennis is fun. They're right on top of the table, and sometimes their head gets into play.
I know. It actually has really been fun to watch. It's also spectacular to see just the hand-eye coordination that these guys have. You know, we just play it for fun here in the States, but over there, elsewhere, I would say, all across the world, they take that sport really serious.
We also have shooting. We have judo. We have badminton. We have the floors going on as well for gymnastics, fencing, surfing, swimming, and boxing. Essentially, it seems like every sport on the list is going to be competing tomorrow.
Yeah, even BMX, men's and women's, are competing tomorrow, Steve. That's 1:35 p.m., so you figure that's going to be really, really late out in Paris. So, yeah, there's a lot of great sporting events that are going to be happening tomorrow. I feel like a lot of these, now that we've really crossed the first couple, the first week or so, now we're talking about a lot of medals being awarded across all these finals.
Good. Well, I'm looking forward to watching all of that and keeping a track of everything as we get into the weekend in the Olympics. By the way, we should also note baseball is still going on. I know everybody's talking Olympics, but the Yankees have won 5 in a row. The Guardians and the Royals have each won 4 in a row. We also have, speaking of win streaks, the Cubs have won 3 straight. The Pods have won their last 2. The Diamondbacks have won 3 straight. But nobody, and I mean nobody, can match the 17 consecutive losses that the White Sox have right now. 17 in a row, Michael.
That's a franchise record for them, and that's a franchise record for the wrong reasons. And it's just this White Sox team, man, what a complete disaster. And if you look at a couple years ago, this team won 100 games, Steve. This team was competing for the championship, but, Tony De La Russa, once he retired, I think just everything went down, and ownership has not been great to them, and Luis Roberts probably going to be on his way out here soon. And, who knows what happens, in the farm system. There's not really much to be excited for there. And it's a very, very confusing times here for the White Sox.
How about Jazz Chisholm so far for the Yankees, Steve?
Oh, man, they love him in the Bronx. He's a cult hero.
He's got swag, so much swag. It's cool to see him on this kind of team like the Yankees and him shine in a big way.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Who's the poor sap who has to pitch for the White Sox tonight? Oh, it's Davis Martin, who I guess hasn't even thrown much, but he's going to get a chance to try to pitch and break the 17-game losing streak. And I'm looking at their lineup. It's depressing. That's the best way to put it. It's depressing. I'm not even going to give you the names. I'm just going to give you the batting averages of their starting 9. 215, 175, 222, 219, 232, 203, 236, 185, and 213.
How embarrassing, man. How sad, right?
Yeah, that is yikes. Wow. That is very bad.
It is. I mean, that's... How about this? How about the fact that 232 is the best hitter on... Or 236 is the best hitter on the club right now, average-wise.
What are their OPS? Is there a guy of there over 700, or no?
Oh, no. No. In fact, I mean, they're all really in the 6s as far as I know. That seems to be what the overall factor is at this point. Yeah, it's depressing. It'll make you want to puke. In fact, the best OPS on the team, like 660, 650. No, wait a minute. I take that back. Luis Robert Jr. is in the 700s. He's the only one. He's in the 700s. Nobody on the team is slugging higher than 385 outside of Luis Robert Jr., who is slugging 449, even though he's batting 222. It's depressing. They're awful. What a team. Happy we brought that up. 17 losses in a row. Just imagine. All right. Let's get a break in. Tim Haggerty's going to join us next with Story Time. Then he'll take us into Chihuahuas in Oklahoma City tonight. It's our final countdown. It's next here, 600 ESPN El Paso.